Welcome to George Mason University's Studio A. My name is Rick Davis, and today our guest is Angel Sepulveda, a music video and film director. Please welcome Angel Sepulveda.
Hi. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Angel. So let's begin at the beginning. What inspired you to get into film production?
My uncle did something he didn't supposed to. He took me to go see a horror film while I was 7 years old. The movie was called The Thing with Kurt Russell. And ever since then, instead of going to see Bambi and Snow White, I wanted to see movies. And it was actually that movie because I come from a family of art. So my aunt does sculpture and all these kinds of things. And my uncle actually introduced me into look, this is how they made the spaceship.
Oh, that's terrific.
This is the models and that kind of thing. And then I discovered special effects. Learning all the stuff that I learned from my family, it was like, wow, this is something that I can really do.
Did you blow stuff up as a kid and film it, or?
No, but you know what I did do is I took things apart and I made it something
okay.
else. My grandmother wasn't too happy with that, but just kind of the way it went.
Now, you were telling me a story in the green room about your high school English class where you tricked him into letting you write a screenplay. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, right? So growing up in New York, English wasn't really my strong suit. And when it became a good strong suit, the last thing I wanted to do is continue learning English. So when I was a freshman in high school at Bushwick High School in New York, what I did is basically, I didn't want to learn literature. It finds there, but all we did was just read out of books. So I and a couple of friends basically got together and we wrote a petition and we had students sign it. We got about 200 signatures in the school. And the idea was to get an English video class that would teach us what I want to get out of it is to learn how to write a script. I want to learn movies. I don't want to learn all these literature stuff. So, and she came in and she taught us the basics about story structures and how to write a script and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where it went.
So fast forward for a minute. You're working with Spike Lee. You're in the production side of film. And he tells you that to be a good director, you have to know everybody's job.
Yeah.
Have you followed through on that advice?
Yeah, I was in high school at the time.
Really?
I was only a production assistant when I worked in Malcolm X. It was actually in that class that that sort of led me to get on set because I went to do an interview with him and he invited me, hey, you should come to the set when we do this. And I became a production assistant. I did it for a couple of weeks and I asked him, look, what do you need to do to direct? Because I didn't know anything. I was thinking of special effects at that point. So he said, well, you see all these people here, you're going to know everyone's job. And I took that to heart because I saw exactly what he was talking about, where he was telling somebody, hey, I need you to do this like we did this, and he was referencing things that I didn't know anything about. So from production assistant work, I worked my way up the ladder until this very day when I'm directing now. So see, what is it, 14 years? No, 17 years. Yeah, it's a long time.
So did you cover most of the craft and the technical functions in your career up to date?
I did actually. There was a few that I didn't get a chance because they were slightly a little boring, but wardrobe was a little boring to me. But no, it's like I did everything, like building sets and electrical work, which I still do. Special effects, or actually I've done craft services even.
I was going to wonder about that.
Video assist was the only one that was really helpful to me because I got to be next to the director every single time and learn from them.
Now, you've also done a lot of work in music videos.
Yes.
And you have a company that you work with called Wraith Films that does a variety of work. And there are some bands that I'm going to just have to read because I don't know these bands.
Okay.
It's my generation. Misery Signals,
Okay.
Newfound Glory, Bury Your Dead. And we actually have a really good reel that you provided us from Wraith Films, which has some of this work in it. Can you set that reel up for us?
Most of these bands are very local, very small record labels. A lot of you, before the show started, asked about favorite music videos. They all mainstream, and that's fine. But there's a lot of bands out there who are independent, don't have big budgets, and we basically took to making all these music videos. The thing is about having good quality videos, and that's kind of what we focused on. So we didn't do this to get rich. We did it because we love it. We love music videos. We wanted to bring some of the essence of music videos. So the clip you're about to see it's our reel, it's our Wraith reel, where as you will see it, basically you can see the production value. You can see the work that was done on set, the work that went into the cinematography to tell the story. And the thing is that we did it in partnership with the band itself. we get them involved. And most of the music videos have been directed by my associate Joseph Pattersall, who has been the niche contact with these kind of bands, grunge bands and that kind of stuff. So, you know, and Daryl Pittman was always he's also a good friend of mine. He's the director of photography, and what we did, not only did we develop ourselves, but we developed how we conducted the work.
Well,
So,
let's take a look.
okay.
Okay.
Through the mirror of my mind, time after time, I see reflections of you and me. Reflections of the way life used to be. Reflections of the love you took from me. Oh, I'm all alone now. No love to shield me. Trapped in a world that's a distorted reality. Happiness you took from me and left me alone with only memories. Through the mirror of my mind, through these tears that I'm crying, reflects the hurt I can't control. 'Cause although you're gone, I keep holding on to the happy time. Ooh, and you were mine. As I peer through the window of lost time, looking over my yesterday and all the love I gave all in vain. All the love that I wasted, all the tears that I tasted, all in vain. Through the hollow of my tears, I see a dream that's lost from the hurt that you have caused. Everywhere I turn, seems like everything I see reflects the love that used to be. In you I put all my faith and trust, right before my eyes, my world has turned to dust. After all the nights I sat alone and wept, just a handful of promises are all that's left of love and you. Reflections of the way life used to be. Reflections of the love you took from me. In you I put all my faith and trust, right before my eyes, my world has turned to dust.
That's a remarkable variety of material there, different locations, different styles. How collaborative are you with the artists themselves, with the musicians? Do they help do the design, or is that all you guys?
Actually, majority it's us.
Mm-hmm.
But as a director, for example, someone comes up to you with the music. Most of the time, it's the record label. Hey, you know, I need you to do this for this band. We don't really have funds for it, you know, or a lot of funds. How can you do it? It's something to understand. So with any production, is there are three things to consider: fast, cheap, and good. Take two, sacrifice a third.
Right. It's that
It could
triangle.
be fast and cheap, but it won't be good. Same thing with anything. Sacrifice a third. And that's kind of the way you have to think about it. So most of the time, they come up with a budget. We try to fit things to the budget, but sometimes there is ways to stretch that budget. You know, whether we build our own sets, we don't hire people to do it. We do all the stuff ourselves. We think about the concepts from beginning to end. And you go to the band and you say, look, this is what we're thinking. We have storyboards, pictures, locations, and it's just like any other pitch, which is a good practice for pitching. And you want to talk them into it. But you also have to understand, too, is that the band member may have a different thought in mind. So it's just kind of the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it is collaborative, but, you know, sometimes you got to go where the money goes.
Terrific. Well, let's see if our students have any questions for you. Who has a question? Yes.
Hi, I'm Beth. When you first started out in film, did you always know that you wanted to be a director?
No, like I said, I was going to do special effects, and it wasn't until, Spike Lee gave me the advice in the sense of this is what I need to do. So I grew up to be a director in a sense. From doing all the things that I did, I learned what I really wanted to do, which was, I'm a leader in a sense. My wife tells me that all the time. So I'm more about, how are we going to do this together? And I also like the whole team effort. So director was the best fit for me, but I'm also producing now, so.
Anybody else have a question? Over on that side, yes.
Hi, I'm Zach, and when you first started out in film, what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
Me, actually. It was me. Because I found that if I got stuck doing one thing, I couldn't get away. If I was just doing editing or just building sets, if I didn't find the niche in having conversation with people, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing now. I would not be able to broaden myself or my talent in a sense. Not to, talk highly about myself, but, it's just kind of one of these things. You really need to be careful not to stay in one location or one job in a sense, because it's not going to wait for you. If you want something, you have to go get it. It's not going to come to you either way. You want to be a director, you have to become a director. It's not you get hired to be a director. Here's the thing too, is that you're on location and you're directing something. If you don't know what you're doing, how to communicate it, people won't trust you. It's very important. So that's why it's so important to learn how everything or everyone does. It's back to the basics. You have to go back to it.
Great. Any other questions from the studio audience? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike, and you kind of already answered my question, but is it better to become a director by being a jack of all trades or just focusing on one aspect of film?
Absolutely. If, for example, if I can communicate with any electrician on set, and any set that I go to and say, look, I need this kind of bandwidth, I need 50 foot from here to there, and I want you to put a China ball out. Do you even know what I'm just talking about? China ball is very soft light, but people know what it is. I'm able to communicate that because I've done it. A lot of times I had a gaffer who came up to me and said, there's no way we can do that. So like, yeah, you can. Just get this, get that, and just get it up there, tie it up, and put a safety line on it, and that's it. Shine it down. See, I'm also a director of photography too. So you have to learn everything, you really do. Because like, in a sense of director of photography, it's like, I'm able to communicate with them that way. I can draw storyboards, say, look, this is the shot that I'm looking for. This is what I'm doing. Or back to the basics in a sense, do you remember that video that we shot? And we did this. This is kind of what I want this to look like. It's all about the experience. No one will ever trust you unless you know what you're talking about.
Now, you also gained experience working in television, right? You worked on shows like America's Most Wanted, Commander-in-Chief. How did that add to your portfolio?
In Commander-in-Chief, I was more of a video assist at that point. Video assist, like what I was mentioning earlier, is it puts me right next to the director. I am there for him only. But I learned how he makes his decisions. How to, you know what, there's a shot he can't take, he'll make it up somehow. That's how, television and working in that aspect of it helped me. But in like American Most Wanted, I was a first assistant director. And there were times basically where things were not going right that it's up to me to find solutions. Next hour, we'll go over budget. How can I save this? And producer looks at you because you're the leader at that point. Yes, director is in charge, but the first assistant director is the one who really has the voice. Because you got to tell everyone else what to do. Sometimes you get directors who don't know what they want to do. It happens. Sometimes you got to step in. And guess what? You won't even get credit for it. It happens. But you know what? You're there to complete the job, regardless of how it goes.
Now, you've just completed your first feature film.
I did.
Called College Park.
Yeah.
You want us to tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll watch a clip.
I'm in the process of financing this big movie, $50 million budget kind of movie, and things are taking long, so I decided, I don't want to wait. I want to shoot something else. There was an article, something that happened in College Park, Maryland, where there were a couple of break-ins going in. And I sort of took that article and I said, you know what, this would be a great story, but why were they breaking into these people's houses and why they were doing it? So I took it and I just went with it. I created a spy thriller kind of movie all in one location. Reference to a movie, what was that movie I referenced to? With the Little Red Riding Hood. Anyways, one location kind of movie. I set boundaries to myself. So look, one location, one apartment. This is how you have to tell the story. So it was more about the acting, the direction, that kind of thing. So what you can see here is basically a scene from the movie where the bad guys are coming in and they're trying to find out where the boyfriend is, because there's this data that was stolen, that he paid for it, and he's missing. So what the scene's going to be is just kind of like that kind of dialogue conversation.
Sounds like a very Washington area story.
Yeah,
With, missing data.
the brother and the sister are all tied up now. They haven't seen each other for a long time. They're tied up and they're being beat up, type of thing. And like just give me what I want and I'll go away.
All right.
But that never happens. So.
Okay, let's take a look.
I'm sorry. Maybe I missed something. Did somebody say you two could talk? Franco, stop. Stop. Maybe it's just me, but I'm curious. There's a lot of whispering going on here. What were you two whispering about?
I was just asking her if her boyfriend had anything that you might want.
Huh. Yeah. I should remind you, too, that now would not be a good time to start lying to me.
I'm not lying.
True enough. And that's a good thing. Because, to be honest, we really don't have time for any of that. And as it is, you see, I still don't know where the boyfriend is. And I don't know where the information is that we paid for either.
I can't help you with either one of those things, so why don't you just go find the guy?
Ooh, were it only that easy. If it were that simple, do you think we'd honestly be here right now? Huh? Now, Nathan, it's true. This, he's Nathan. Nathan at one point told us he knew where the data was. But unfortunately, along the way, he decided to disobey me. Nathan decided he didn't look at the information when we told him not to. I guess you could say he had a change of heart. Right. For that to be the case, I guess you'd have to have a heart. And as we all know, Nathan has no heart because he left you, sister, all alone. Now, didn't he?
There's a lot of story in that little clip even. It's very nice, very concentrated.
That's the idea, is like to get you want to see more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it does. Speaking of which, can you tell us now that you've finished the film, and is it all wrapped up and post-production and everything all done?
We're still finalizing the final mix. If you saw, there's not score on there.
Right.
Some of the sound effects are still needs to be tweaked out, but the master mix is kind of what we're doing now.
So after that's all done, then what are your plans for getting this movie out in the world?
Well, we're trying to hold a small premiere for the movie down in the AFI Theater, hopefully in Silver Spring, but we'll see what happens. But the idea is, I have a distributor who has already looked at the rough cut of the movie. They said, look, finish it, and we'll talk. But the way I pitched it was, let's redo it. Let's redo it again. Let's do a bigger budget, I spent, $200,000 in this movie. With an investor, and the idea is basically we can make it better. My egos is not anywhere. They want to do it again, great. They want to sell it, great. Let's move on. What's next?
So this movie is in some ways a full-length audition for another shot at doing this movie. That's
exactly. When I wrote this, I wanted to make sure that whoever saw this can see comedy, drama, thriller, horror, psychological horror, and what the hell is going on? Excuse me for saying hell. But
we
basically,
have a button that can get rid of that, so it's all right. Yeah.
So I sort of want to mix everything into it, and that's the way I wrote it. And when it came down to full fruition and we did it, it was like, wow, I did this.
And you were, just for the record, you were the screenwriter, you were the director, you were the art director?
Yep.
You were the
set construction designer?
director of production?
The only thing I really wasn't is director of photography.
Mhm.
Well, most of the scenes. When I was on location, I was.
Mhm.
We did this with 2 cameras, 35 millimeter lenses with a DVX 200. You know, it's not rocket science.
And it looks like it's on location, but you told me that you actually hired a warehouse and built the whole
Actually,
thing.
yeah, that's fake. The entire set, the entire apartment's fake. There's a kitchen, living room, bedroom, and a bathroom. The entire thing's fake. It's just Luan. You know,
So it's really
we
a,
built it
it's a theater
ourselves.
set built in a warehouse, basically.
Yeah,
Now,
that's basically it.
why did you choose to do that instead of going and finding an apartment in College Park and setting up shop?
Control the environment. It's much easier to shoot something in a controlled environment. If you can move walls, you can't move a wall in an apartment. You know, have to knock something down, and we can light from the top.
Right.
You're not limited. You have more space. You can choose the size you want, because you also have to consider, you know, dolly tracks, dollies, lights, booms, and that kind of stuff. Those are the obstacles that you can think right ahead and avoid, you know, by doing that.
So what do you think is going to happen? What's your gut tell you is going to happen with this film?
I don't know. You know, it's called the movie gods. Is kind of what's referred in Hollywood. Let's see what they want to do with it. I hope that basically, you know, it sells itself in a sense. Whether we do it in DVD distribution and that's all it is, and great. But you know what? I did the film, you know, and I'm moving forward to the next projects and that kind of thing. And we see what happens.
And when you do the premiere at AFI, is that in any way kind of a backers audition, or are there people there coming to see it who might move it along?
Some of the things that you want to invite to the premiere, if it does happen at the AFI, is you invite the press, you invite people, you invite people who have interest in purchasing it, and that's kind of the idea.
Is this a film that might go into the festival circuit?
It depends, because I was going to put it into the film festival circuit, but I was asked by the distribution company to pull it, so I did, based on the agreement that they wanted to see it finish. They may take it to the film circuit, you know, when they want to, or they may just want to see the entire thing redone.
Sounds like it means they're interested.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
great.
basically the idea is like, you know, then it's when you create a bidding war, if you can, you know, between different distributions. But don't want to burn all your bridges.
That sounds great. Let's turn back to our students and see if they have some more questions. Yes.
Hi, my name's Scott, and I was wondering which director had the biggest influence on you?
That's hard. I would have to say Ridley Scott. When I worked in Hannibal doing video assess, it was one of these things where I saw him make some decisions on tight spaces. And if I had a suggestion, he didn't turn it away. You know, there was a time that something was not matching to something that was shot previous. And when you're doing video assess, you see these things. You know, it's just like, I had a friend who was the key guy, but when I went over to talk to Ridley, say, look, that doesn't make sense because in the shot she does this. That's not going to cut together. Say, I'm also an editor and mine's on set. So, and he took that to heart. So, you know what? You're right. You know, and he'll go in and say, hey, let's change that because it's not going to match this and whatever. And, you know, that sort of took me to heart. I said, you know what? He didn't blow me away. To point it down to one director is really hard because I've been influenced by many of them. Like, for example, when I write, I have movies of the character that I want to write, but they're also influenced by a certain director. So when I write, that's kind of the way I work, and it's kind of like I gotta have that movie in the background while I'm working on this one, because that character. Like I wrote a lot of movies with Denzel Washington in it, because his dialogue was what was driving the scene. So
Another question. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chad, and more about Ridley Scott. Were you ever intimidated by working with him?
No, not at all. You know, I learned the hard way is that you cannot be intimidated whatsoever. It's hard to say that from your point of view to hear someone saying that, but the truth of the fact is they're just people. You know, they have a job. They're the foreman of this production, if you want to think of it that way. But no, it's kind of one of these things where if you're not confident, they're not going to think of you. You know, I unfortunately have my last name. People know, they can remember me because of California, and there's a street there and that type of thing. So this is much easier market for me. But the thing is, you want to make an impression. You really do. And your first impression is usually the only one you're really going to get. You know, so you have to remember that. It's just like, you can't be scared if you're shaking your hand like this and you're shaking all over the place, it's like you'll make a first impression there. They'll remember, oh, that's a shaky guy. That's not what you want to do.
Speaking of your great last name, you've created a company called Sepulveda Films now, and tell us about that and how that's going to help advance your next project.
Well, Sepulveda Films it's going to be focused more on the narrative side, like feature film side. As far as the music videos, it's going to stay with Ray Films, because that's the market. That's the niche. That's where everyone remembers music videos from. Hey, let's go to the Wraith guys. Sepulveda Films is more so people can sort of remember, because especially in California, it's a marketing aspect of it. Using my last name and just using the advantage of that. But it's going to help. It actually has helped a lot, especially with financing, where you talk to investors. They have a name to refer to. Unlike as a company, they remember the company more. They remember you as a person, because they just think, oh, he just works there. This is something to remember about. So.
And your next project, the movie you alluded to before, that's the bigger budget?
Yeah, it's based on an urban legend. It's local. It's the Bunny Man film.
The Bunny Man.
Yeah,
yes.
it's a horror film. It's basically my adaptation to the genre, and we're almost there. It's we have a lot of interest. It's been a good 2 years working on getting the financing. I just why I couldn't wait. That's why I did College Park. But we're coming to a full fruition now that working on the contracts and negotiations are almost done, and hopefully we'll be doing. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe 2010 will be on theater. Which, by the way, all movies takes 2 years, from beginning to end. 2 years.
Well,
so when you're seeing something now, it's been 2 years ago when they.
Let's hope Bunny Man, we see that in 2010, and we'll look for College Park in the meantime. Angel Sepulveda, thank you for being with us. My name is Rick Davis, and this has been Studio A. Thanks for watching.